In the Bud Moore prepared Crisco Ford, there's Bodine, and of course there is Greg Sachs. Greg Sachs being shown in the picture. Sachs driving, of course, the car number, the Buddy Baker car. Of course, that's the Red Baron frozen pizza machine. Jimmy Means in the car number 90. Means subbing for Benny Parsons, who joined our crew today. Thankfully, Benny Parsons in the pits there. And Means out of Forest City, North Carolina, 38 years of age.
Well, that 10 car's been staying in the picture all the way around the track, you know, Ken Bouchard as he falls back.
There's Neil Bonnet in the Valvoline Pontiac. Now, Bonnet will vacate that ride at the end of the season, and we'll move over to the Wood Brothers car. There's Neil Bonnet, 41 years of age, from Bessemer, Alabama, in the Raymark Pontiac. He won twice this year at Richmond and following that up at Rockingham. Michael Waltrip, young brother of Darrell Waltrip, driving the Country Time Lemonade Pontiac. And, of course, Alan Kowicki. Man has started on the outside of the front row. Kowicki currently being shown in fourth spot, or fifth currently, after starting second in the Z-Rex Amoco Ford.
And right behind him is Rusty Wallace in car number 27, and he's being shown in the fifth. I think Kowicki had moved up to the fourth position, and car number 31 being given the black flag by starter Harold Kinder. The smoke coming from car number 31 as he goes up the backstretch. That is rookie driver Lee Falk.
There's Rusty Wallace. He has not gotten a short track win this year. In fact, he did not let a lap on the short tracks until Martinsville a couple of weeks ago. Rick Wilson from Bartow, Florida, former all-state linebacker in high school football. A young fella, very, very muscular, driving the Kodak Oldsmobile there for the Morgan McClure team. And Mike Alexander, a young driver from Franklin, Tennessee, 31 years of age, subbing for Bobby Allison, the injured Bobby Allison. We'd like to say hello to Bobby, watching back in Birmingham, Alabama. And Bobby, we want you to come back in a hurry. Awfully good to see you last week in Charlotte. And, of course, the pole sitter, Bill Elliott, in the Coors Motorcraft Ford. Elliott trying to hang on to that 109-point Winston Cup point lead over Rusty Wallace and Dale Earnhardt.
Here's young Rob Moroso in car number 22 as Greg Sachs in the car number 88 moves around him. Rob, as you mentioned earlier, in his second Winston Cup event, he ran last week in the Oakwood Homes 500 at Charlotte, and Davey Allison in the Havoline Ford number 28 was moving around on the outside of Rob Moroso.
Back up front, the lead duo up there. That's Ricky Rudd in the car number 26, moving in on Kenny Schrader. Schrader had qualified so well early on, qualifying in the third spot, and now about to go a lap down to Rudd. An indication of just how strong Ricky Rudd is. And Gary, you can really, if you miss the setup a little bit on the short track and you say you're a tenth of a second off, it doesn't take long when you turn this track in 19 seconds to get a lap down.
Well, North Wilkesboro goes two ways. We've seen it here with a lot of cautions. Every 20, 30 laps a caution would come out, and we've seen it with very few cautions. This looks like one of the type of races with very few cautions, and if you're off a little bit, it's not long before the leaders come back to get you. Look at Harry Gant. He is really driving. I think that maybe some of that oil smoke is getting under his tires, or maybe, I don't know what it is, but his car is really turning sideways on him when he gets on the throttle.
Yes, it is. And, of course, part of that would be tire smoke as he comes off of the turn as he tries to move around Dale Jarrett. And speaking of running without caution, Darrell Derringer, I believe, is the only driver who has won here at North Wilkesboro, led every lap from start to finish in the Junior Johnson car. I believe that was back in 1966, and he won the race. And we'd like to say hello to Darrell, who's in the hospital in Charlotte, North Carolina. Hope he's feeling better today. He's had a pretty rough week. Darrell, of course, is suffering from cancer.
There are the front two cars, Ricky Rudd, of course, and Jeff Bodine, moving back in the pack as they are working up on the Dave Marcus car, Marcus's shop. And the car number 9, that is Bill Elliott, back in the field, moving around the Kenny Bouchard machine.
And we understand that they might be about to make a tire change. Let's check in with Benny Parsons in the pits.
Ned Jarrett, just a moment ago, these Goodyears were the tires in front, the sticker Goodyears that we talked about. Just a moment ago, the Bill Elliott crew took these tires, put them to the back, and put the brand new Hoosier, the sticker Hoosiers, up front. These would be the next tires to go on the car. They watched the 27 car change to Hoosier, the 27 car passed them. And that's who they've got to outrun today, is the 27.
And, of course, that's Rusty Wallace, who's battling for, as far as the points are concerned. Here's Elliott on the racetrack. Still running good out there, but he's dropped out of the top 5 at the moment.
Well, then I think the second and fifth place cars have gotten a lot of people's attention. Of course, Bodine in second spot and Rusty Wallace in fifth, both on Hoosier tires. And Bodine is really giving a fit now to Ricky Rudd coming out of turn 4. There's Robbie Moroso, 20-year-old driver, just turned 22 weeks ago, and he turns that Oldsmobile down pit road, and it looks like he will have a pit stop, and possibly he has gotten some sheet metal damage on the left side of that car. Steve Bird and the rest of the crew will go to work on it. A tough break for young Moroso. And Gary, he was an impressive young driver for you a week ago at Charlotte. He started 34th. There's Robbie. He started 34th and finished a respectable 14th.
But we really had a good time, you know, taking Robbie to his first Winston Cup race. I was fortunate enough to be the crew chief on the team. He ran, he qualified for the race, ran in the top 20 all day, and ended up 14th overall. We were really proud of Robbie. So now this is his second race, but he looks like he has mechanical problems.
And remember last week, he also won his first ever Super Speedway event in the Busch Grand National car in Charlotte, outdueling Jeff Bodine those final few laps to take that victory. So again, an impressive performance last weekend at Charlotte, both Saturday and Sunday, for young Rob Moroso.
Jerry, right now there are 12 drivers on the lead lap. And we understand that Dick Berggren has some news on why Harry Gant is smoking.
Well, I just talked to Travis Carter, and he says that the problem is possibly a little bit of oil that's hitting the headers. He says it's nothing serious. NASCAR's talked to Travis. They don't seem to be making any overtures to bring him in, but just in case, they're ready here with a gas can.
Harry Gant would really like to get one more win for that team, the Hal Needham Skoll team he has driven for the past 8 years. And in a few more weeks, they will hang up the shingle down there, and they may even auction the stuff off. It just all depends on whether they can sell that team or not. Gant, the sentimental favorite here today. He's a driver in your picture there, showing a little bit of smoke out of that Chevrolet. And Gant would love to go to victory lane, the 48-year-old driver from nearby Taylorsville. Ricky Rudd leads here at North Wilkesboro Speedway as we are just past the 150 lap mark here in the Holly Farms 400. Rudd the leader, a capacity crowd on hand to watch it. We'll be back. And of course, dished up that 2-run homer to Kurt Gibson last night in the 9th inning. Battle for the lead back in the Wilkesboro Speedway. I'm Jerry Punch along with Ned Jarrett and Gary Nelson, Benny Parsons and Dick Berggren. And Ricky Rudd has been holding the lead at 155 laps. And Jeff Bodine moves to the inside and puts the colors of that yellow numeral car number 5, the Levi Garrett Chevrolet. And Rudd says, whoa, a little bit of fender banging, Ned.
Yes, he wanted to get the lead back. Jeff caught him in some traffic and moved on the inside and just took away the lead. But now Rudd has muscled his way right back up front.
Muscle is right. I believe these guys are getting at it. Gary, you know, this is the last short track race of the year, and some of these short track cars will never race again. They'll end up at a mall or a shopping center as a show car, so I'm sure the car owner said, hey, you guys, go at it.
Well, they're approaching this race with a whole different attitude than they had here 2 weeks ago. They are thinking about, yeah, this is the last short track race. Yeah, the points, you know, especially Ricky Rudd, he's not in the points at all with all of his engine failures. Yeah, yellow flag is out for some reason. I don't see any reason yet.
Okay, well, that'll be a break that a lot of drivers are looking for, that they want to come into the pits and get some fresh tires on those cars, because there were some of them that were sliding all over the place.
And we'll keep an eye on Bill Elliott, the pole setter. Remember, Benny Parsons has told us they had those Hoosiers ready to go on the Elliott car, as now the yellow flag waving by Harold Kinder, and they will be feeding time at the zoo. Everyone making that left-hand turn down pit road. Here is Rudd and Bodine. As we will watch these leader pit stops, let's go to Benny Parsons in the Rudd pit. Benny?
Ricky Rudd pulls the car to the stop. They're going around to the right side. All the rest of the cars are coming in right behind him. There's the Kenny Schrader car right behind Rudd. Here comes the Bill Elliott car into his pits. They have the right side change on Rudd's car. They're going to the left. They're putting the Goodyear tires back on Rudd's car. Bill Elliott is going to switch to Hoosier. Up on pit road is Dick Berggren.
Jeff Bodine just pulled out of his pit, but Ricky Rudd beats him out because of where he was pitted. Rudd is way down pit road, and that was the difference. Actually, Jeff Bodine left his pit stall earlier. Bodine has stuck with the Hoosier tires he started the race with. More stickers just went on Jeff Bodine's car.
So we've already seen the strategy unfold here on pit road as far as pit position being so critical, Gary, and now the tires. We have Goodyear's back on the car number 26, and we have Hoosiers on the Elliott car, and back on, of course, the Bodine car.
Boy, what a battle. You know, between the two tire companies, like we were talking really all race long, we've got the leader running the Goodyears and the second place car on the Hoosiers.
Well, we're under the second caution flag today here at Wilkesboro Speedway. Debris on the racetrack and an injured spectator being let out. We're still early on. Stay tuned. We're having fun. Ricky Rudd's the leader. Wilkesboro Speedway, 160 laps are in the books here as we are in the Holly Farms 400. 400 laps, 250 miles will be the completion of this event, as we will have 3 more Winston Cup shows to go, all 3 on ESPN, as we go to the countdown, the road to the Winston Cup. Will it be Elliott, Wallace, or Earnhardt? And some of it may be decided today. Elliott now having put on the Hoosier tires, Ned, and it looks like Elliott's crew have made the call.
Yes, they made the call after observing very closely what Jeff Bodine was doing out there and what Rusty Wallace did. Wallace now is up in the 3rd position. He made a good pit stop. So did Dale Earnhardt. Earnhardt and Darrell Waltrip were in jeopardy of going a lap down before this caution came out. So it worked to their advantage very well as they were able to catch up to the field, get in, made good pit stops. The signal now being given for 1 more lap, and we'll go back to green flag racing, and it should be some good racing.
Should be some outstanding racing. The safety car has the field, and we'll watch the replay here as the Dale Earnhardt car in front of Kyle Petty. He gets tapped by the Lee Falk effort. Kyle keeps the car down low. Great job by Greg Saxon, the car number 88, to miss Kyle Petty. There's, of course, Brett Bodine. That was the first caution flag of the day. And this latest caution flag was an emergency caution. There was an injured spectator who wanted to let across the field there. And there is no tunnel here, of course, and they have to cross the racetrack. They let him walk across the track over there toward the emergency safety crews outside as we are ready to go back to green here at Wilkesboro. Top 10, of course, Ricky Rudd being shown as your leader. Rudd is the leader. Jeff Bodine in 2nd spot. Back in 3rd spot now being shown is Rusty Wallace. As we're getting ready for green, it's a beautiful new pit road, a totally revamped Wilkesboro Speedway. And Harold Kender unfurls the green, and Rudd jumps in the throttle and leads the charge down in turn 1.
Rudd was quick to get on the accelerator so he could get down to the low side of the racetrack. That's where he's been running most of the day. Some cars had already started to move up high before that last caution come out. Now Jeff Bodine is going to have to move high to move around Sterling Marlin.
Sterling Marlin driving the car number 44. That's the blue, white, and red numeral Piedmont Airlines Oldsmobile. Marlin there right in front of the Jeff Bodine car. Heavy traffic back in the pack. There's the Hardee's race cam inside the Hardee's Oldsmobile for Dale Jarrett. Jarrett pulls to the rear deck of Harry Gant. And Gant there trying to move inside of the Folger Chevrolet. That's the car of Kenny Schrader. You see the leaders up in front there. That's the Sterling Marlin car on the inside as Bodine trying to work around him. And now moving beneath Dale Jarrett, the Wins Kmart car of Lake Speed. Back up front, Ricky Rudd resumes the point, and Rudd is really rocketing away. He says, see you, fellas.
Jerry, I don't think there's any question but what the Goodyears are quicker when they first put them on. They just, he sprinted away the last time after the tire change, and this time he has done the same thing. And Jeff Bodine, of course, would have put new Hoosier tires on as well. So I think the Goodyears are certainly faster, at least in the first 10 laps or so.
Dale Earnhardt now being shown back in 3rd spot, and he certainly wants to win here. A disappointing finish last week involved in a crash at Charlotte Motor Speedway. He knows he has to win, no doubt about it. Earnhardt has to win here and the remainder of the season to have a shot at that 4th Winston Cup championship.
You know, also Dale Earnhardt right here on the screen and Rusty Wallace right behind him haven't led a lap yet this race. You know, the leaders have been Alan Kowicki, Ricky Rudd, and Jeff Bodine just for an instant. So these guys are looking for that 5-point extra bonus if they can lead any lap. And obviously they'd like to lead the last one, but any of them, anywhere along in here would do a lot, put them a lot more at ease.
And of course, Bill Elliott did lead in the early part of the race, so he does have that 5 bonus points.
So already working from somewhat of a disadvantage are Earnhardt and Wallace. They know that Elliott has led a lap, and Earnhardt says, I've got to catch him and lead. Earnhardt now really starting to flex the muscle a little bit. That team a little bit down last week after losing their engine builder, but they are a team effort, as Dale Earnhardt has tried to stress. Richard Childress, Kirk Shelberdine, and the crew, Will Lynn, they've all said, we're a team. We lose one person, and everyone else sort of will close the ranks. So they lost their engine builder, Lou LaRosa, but Eddie Miller and Eddie Ranier and the rest of the folks in the engine room are trying to show they can put together some potent motors, and they have done so today.
Well, now, Ricky Rudd jumped out to a pretty good lead, but it looks like that Jeff Bodine is beginning to move in on him a little bit. So maybe it doesn't take the tires as long to adjust as we thought it might. We said 10 laps a moment ago. They've run about 6 or 7 since the green flag came back out, and Jeff Bodine is beginning to pick up on Ricky Rudd.
We might mention that, you know, that after some incidents a couple of weeks ago, it was rumored that Jeff Bodine would be leaving that team and would not be driving for the Hendrick Motorsports efforts next year. Well, that is not the case, and thankfully Rick Hendrick and the folks have gotten together and they met with Jeff Bodine, and I think Bodine was all smiles here when I talked to him a couple of weeks ago. He had talked to Rick Hendrick and they had made a decision, of course, that he would like to stay on board with Waddell Wilson. They've got a great combination. They have run better and better as the weeks have gone on, and I think the run today is really a vote of confidence for Bodine by Rick Hendrick and their sponsors, Levi Garrett.
Well, he certainly knows how to get around a short track, and he's really moving in on Ricky Rudd right now.
173 laps in the books, so it'll be 400 comprised of the Holly Farms 400 today from the Wilkesboro Speedway with the leader, Ricky Rudd. Jeff Bodine second. We'll be back. Speedway, they remain the same. 31-year-old Ricky Rudd from Chesapeake, Virginia. We are 178 laps complete here, and running second as the car spins around. Richard Petty been riding up on that outside groove, just rim riding on the outside groove and up near the wall, has looped that car up out of turn 4 as the field now passing in review down on the bottom. Let's take a look and see what happened, Ned.
Okay, as he goes into turn 3, he's been running very, very high up on the racetrack. He got a little too high, got his tires out in the loose stuff, as they say, and it just spins around sideways. He didn't go all the way around. He was high enough on the racetrack that everybody else was able to get down on the inside and move around him.
Well, caution for the third time today for that spin by the 7-time Winston Cup champion, Richard Petty. 50 years of age. There's a look at the Winston Cup champion, the king. Richard Petty loops it in turn 4. Does a heck of a job to keep that STP Pontiac out of the wall. And Richard, of course, will fall back in line. And we are being shown the yellow flag. The safety car will pick up the field. And it looks like most of the cars will opt to stay on the racetrack. We've just had a caution a few laps ago, and everyone came in and pitted. Neil Bonnett will offer to come down pit road, as will the Mark Martin team and Brett Bodine. They will top off the Bonnett car and clean the windshield as some of the housekeeping being done in the pits.
Well, you don't, you know, when you're running near the back of the pack, you don't lose anything by coming into the pits and getting new tires and getting another run at it. The leaders, like you see Ricky Rudd and Jeff Bodine, if one were to pit and one stay out, you could be all the way to the back of the pack. Let's go to Benny Parsons now.
Thank you very much, Gary. Richard Childress, Dale Earnhardt seems to be running much better than he was earlier on.
Yeah, Benny, we're just working with a tire stagger now, trying to find a happy medium. The racetrack's changed around a whole lot, and I believe we're awful close now. But, you know, we're trying to be easy with our left rear. You spin the car so much off the corner, that's where we're trying to get the stagger fixed for us.
Well, it's 1 lap to green. Right now, Earnhardt's running as well as anyone, isn't he?
Yeah, time-wise he is, but Ricky Rudd looks awful strong.
Okay, thank you.
Jerry, this is the third caution of the day. The second one came out. We said the ambulance had to leave. That was for one of the crew members on the car number 31 that Lee Falk is driving. Jack Reed was injured when the jack fell during a pit stop, and so that was the reason that caution came out. Caution number 2. Of course, here's Richard Petty going out of the pits in the STP Pontiac. He's the reason for caution number 3 when he spun up at turn 4.
Let's check on pit road with Dick Berggren. Dick?
Well, they're still working on Jeff Bodine's car here, trying to get the thing to exactly the condition they'd like to have it on, and each pit stop they adjust ever so slightly with stagger. It's real close, isn't it, Waddell Wilson?
Well, the car's still not 100%. We're still adjusting it and trying to get the tire stagger he wants and get the bite the way he wants it, because Ricky is really tough right now.
Well, that's what everybody is saying. Ricky Rudd is the toughest car on the racetrack. These guys would like to beat him. Now is their time. The green flag is out.
Well, the green flag flies once again, and so does Ricky Rudd. Rudd seems to have the advantage when the green first comes back out. While the tires are cool, Sterling Marlin now hanging on the inside. He is shown now in 13th spot, 1 lap down, and he is fighting for his life. He is trying to get that lap back. He's on the inside of the racetrack, but Rudd just has too much muscle coming out of turn 4. Out of turn 2, Sterling Marlin now hangs on the bottom groove, and Jeff Bodine content to sit back there in the car number 5. That is Bodine. He is sitting back there watching Marlin, and Marlin really gets a good bite out of turn 4 and pulls in front of Rudd. Now Sterling Marlin would like to see another yellow flag, a quick one, if he can try to hang on in front of Ricky Rudd. And look at the inside. Here is Mr. Bodine. Jeff Bodine, having never won at Wilkesboro Speedway, trying to get inside Ricky Rudd. And the man who's sitting back there, you just see the top of his car. Now the whole car is Dale Earnhardt. Look at Ironhead, the nickname they call him, Dale Earnhardt, back in third spot in the Goodrich Chevrolet.
Well, you know, also coming into the picture there is Rusty Wallace. Everybody up there in front trying to get up, leading a few laps. Dale Earnhardt and Rusty Wallace are both very intent on getting to the lead.
Well, Ricky got sort of frustrated there when Sterling Marlin trying to get his lap back, which that's what Sterling had to do. He needed to move to the inside, and he did exactly what the rules called for him to do, but he had the fast groove, and he was able to stay down there and get his lap back, but now Jeff Bodine about to put him a lap down again, but it sort of frustrated Rudd, I believe, a little bit, but he's backed off, cooled off a little bit there now, and we'll see what he can do.
Jeff Bodine, his last 7 trips on a Wilkesboro Speedway, he has finished second twice, third once, and fifth 4 times. He's never won, we say, in a Winston Cup car, although he did pick up a win in an open-wheel modified car for NASCAR racing back here in 1980. There's a look at Jeffrey Bodine, 39 years of age.
And Dale Earnhardt now stalking the car number 26 of Ricky Rudd. Earnhardt would like to get up there, as we said earlier, and lead a lap. He sees Jeff Bodine getting away, so that's going to diminish his chances of leading a lap if he can't get around the car number 26 of Ricky Rudd, and of course the lap car number 44 of Sterling Marlin.
And the big white and green Kodiak Pontiac now pulled up on the rear deck of Dale Earnhardt. There's the one green car. That's the Rudd machine. And Rudd, a little bit of fender contact, right front and left rear. Rudd, the car number 26, tagging that sheet metal from Sterling Marlin. And Sterling now moves up a little bit higher and gives Rudd the bottom groove. And Earnhardt will try to slide through as they exchange a little bit of paint out of turn 4.
Ricky Rudd just kind of bowled his way through there. He let Sterling Marlin know he was there, and then he just kind of forced his way in and finally got around him. I'm sure Ricky Rudd is a little bit frustrated right now, losing the lead.
And look who's on the bumper of Dale Earnhardt. We see Earnhardt on the right of your screen, but right on his back bumper is Rusty Wallace in the Kodiak Bear, car number 27. And there are 2 no harder chargers in all of auto racing than those two. Boy, when they get together, they put on a show.
Rusty Wallace driving here, driving for his life, trying to gather as many Winston Cup points as he can. He needs to lead a lap, so does Earnhardt, and they are currently being shown back in 3rd and 4th spot. There's a 2nd place car of Rudd going by, and there's Earnhardt and Wallace. They're running 3rd and 4th here. They're reversed in the Winston Cup point race. Of course, Earnhardt currently in 3rd spot, some 74 points behind Rusty Wallace and 183 back of Bill Elliott.
Boy, that is something. You take the top 4 cars right here. You got the leader on Hoosiers, 2nd place on Goodyear's, then the next car on Goodyear's, and then 4th place on Hoosiers.
Pretty evenly matched here at Wilkesboro Speedway. We're glad you're with us here for this Holly Farms 400. As the road to the Winston Cup winds down on ESPN, you'll see every single Winston Cup event for the remainder of the year here on ESPN. And currently, it is a Jeff Bodine show. Ricky Rudd, the dominant car early on, but Bodine, in this latest pit stop, has put on those fresh Hoosier tires, and now he will lead Ricky Rudd by some 10 car lengths. And there is Dale Earnhardt and Rusty Wallace, the 3rd and 4th place cars. Earnhardt's the car number 3, the Goodrich Chevrolet, that black and silver numeral car number 3, and the white car with the green numbers, that of course is Rusty.
Currently shown in the 5th position back behind them is Harry Gant, who is still hanging in there. Even though he had a little smoke early, it hasn't bothered him too much. He's still hanging in there. He's about 2nd behind the 3rd and 4th place cars of Earnhardt and Rusty Wallace.
Wallace has to be pumped up, Ned. Coming off a performance a week ago at Charlotte Motor Speedway, Wallace lost a couple of laps, had tremendous frustrations early on with several unscheduled pit stops. He was at least 2 laps down, one to the leaders. An agonizing lap-by-lap battle back to the front. In fact, Rusty Wallace made 17 pit stops in that 500-mile event.
And look at him now trying to pass Dale Earnhardt on the outside. And if you don't think that's a tough chore, get out there one time and try it. Although Earnhardt will race him hard, but he's not going to give him any quarter, Gary.
There's a lot of trust between these 2 guys. You know, they are very similar in their driving styles, but they both have a lot of respect for each other. They can race door to door, and you don't see the bumping like we see with a lot of other cars. They respect each other, but they race each other flat out.
Well, Rusty couldn't make that move on the outside. Now he's going to try it up there again. He sticks that left front fender up on the outside of Earnhardt's right rear quarter panel. Earnhardt gives him racing room, and he moves up on the outside. Boy, that is a tough way to pass.
Rusty Wallace taking the high road around on the outside. 199 laps. We'll have halfway next time by. 400 laps this year comprise the Holly Farms event, 250 miles. So we are just a lap away from halfway.
Now that time on with the fourth turn, Earnhardt just barely gave Rusty room inside of he of the wall. Rusty had to back off a little bit as they went into the turn, so Earnhardt held the position.
I haven't seen them touch yet, Ned. They've been running so close to each other, but no contact so far.
That's real professionalism.
Yeah, it is amazing.
These two drivers battling back for third and fourth spot. Meanwhile, Rudd and Bodine have moved away considerably.
I think Rusty feels that Earnhardt's holding him up a little bit right now. He said, if I can get around him, I can move away. Now he's going to try him on the inside, but that didn't work either.
Well, you can imagine Dale Earnhardt said, okay, Rusty, you can pass me, but you're going to have to do it on the outside because I'm going to protect the inside. And Rusty Wallace saying, come on, give me a little bit of a break on the inside. I know I can get around you.
He's certainly making him work for it, no question about that. And he also knows that when he's working for it out there that he's using his race car and his tires up.
You can see Dale Earnhardt there in the 3 car, giving Rusty Wallace the 27 car the outside of the track. Saying, if you're going around me, you're going to have to do it on the outside. A spin right behind him.
Trouble in turn 2. Harry Gannon loops it around and is on the bottom of the racetrack. Tough luck for Harry. We mentioned that car had been smoking early in the race and possibly some oil on the headers. As Gant's car slipping and sliding, he was trying to hang on to it, couldn't quite keep it straight. The car spins, and now he sits on the grass trying to get the car refired as we are under caution for the 4th time today. We are under caution at Wilkesboro Speedway for the spin by Harry Gant. The leader, Jeff Bodine, just past the halfway mark. Bodine the leader. Ricky Rudd runs in the 2nd spot. Rusty Wallace is 3rd, and Dale Earnhardt is 4th. From North Wilkesboro, we'll be back. Wilkesboro Speedway just past the halfway point. We are under the 4th caution flag today. We are showing 205 laps in the books. This caution flag for Harry Gant, spin that in turn 2. Gant, who spun that car, looped it around, had been running among the top leaders all day. In fact, was being shown in 5th position prior to that spin. But having spun the car and stalled it down in turn 1, Gant now goes 1 lap down to the leaders. And the leader, of course, now after the pit stops coming out, we are showing great pit stops for some of the lead cars. Dale Earnhardt's 3-time world champion pit crew got him out by virtue of great pit work, but by also virtue, Gary, of great pit selection.
Well, he's got that last pit on right there on the left of your screen, or on the right of your screen now, coming off of the pit road. He's at the last pit leaving pit road, and that really gives him a jump. Right there where that man's standing, that's Earnhardt's last pit. Let's go to Benny Parsons down in the pits.
Gary Nelson, these fellas are all over these tires that came off Darrell Waltrip's tide machine, checking the circumference of them, making sure that the stagger stayed the same, because that what the stagger does means how they're going to have to adjust the car. As soon as they were able to lay them down, 4 people went straight to them and started measuring them to make sure. They were having trouble measuring this one, just to make sure where the stagger is so they can adjust the car.
That's Bill Wilburn there, this tire specialist for the Tide team. In fact, a good tire specialist is probably as important as a good crew chief.
Well, you can see him there with the tape measure. He's measuring the circumference of the tire, comparing the inside to the outside, trying to get them matched up just right.
Back to green, and more importantly, Dale Earnhardt has now led a lap. So Earnhardt has picked up those 5 bonus points, and Rusty Wallace says, I need to lead one. Wallace comes like out of a chute, a rocket chute down the back straightaway, moves up on Earnhardt, and it's a half a car length out of turn 4. Out of turn 2, Earnhardt trying to hold off the likes of Rusty Wallace. Jeff Bodine is 3rd, Ricky Rudd is 4th, and Bill Elliott now being shown back in 5th spot as he leads a gaggle of cars. A lot of traffic now bunched up out of turn 4, with the man who leads them, the man who won 6 of 8 short track events a year ago in this same race car. It's the same car they used all last year on the short tracks, and that, of course, is Dale Earnhardt.
Boy, heavy traffic back in the pack there. Dale Earnhardt really getting a nice, easy run before they get into the lap traffic. He's got clear sailing ahead of him.
Here's the Napa mid-race recap. Leader, of course, at the 200-lap mark was Jeff Bodine. Bodine started 8th, had led 17 to the 200 laps. The average speed at halfway was 97.826 miles per hour. And, of course, he pitted on laps 59 and 158. That was at lap 200. There have been 3 cautions for 12 laps back then. There were 5 leaders, 7 lead changes. 32 cars started, 30 remain running, very little attrition here, and there were 12 cars on the lead lap. The two drivers out of the race, youngster Rob Moroso and the veteran Lee Falk. So 30 cars still running here, the Napa mid-race recap. And there's the man they're chasing right now. 35-year-old Dale Earnhardt, three-time Winston Cup champion. And Earnhardt has pulled away somewhat, Ned, from the car of Rusty Wallace.
Yes, he has. He was dogged for a couple of laps after the green flag came out, but then he was able to move away and get himself a little bit of breathing room. And just before the caution came out, they were really dogging each other. Rusty was trying to get around Dale Earnhardt, but remember, Earnhardt has on Goodyear tires, and they certainly work good when they're cool. Rusty still has on the Hoosier tires, but we'll see after they run a while if that changes.
Now, we mentioned this is the same car that Earnhardt used to win 6 short track events a year ago. This is not the brand new, the good short track car that Wallace's team has. They took that car they ran at Martinsville and set on the pole with the new track record, and they have converted it to an intermediate car. They want to run that car at Rockingham. In fact, Rusty Wallace was at Rockingham, North Carolina, where we'll be next week, a week from today, for the AC Delco 500, and he tested that car this past Thursday and ran laps over 147 miles per hour. This car that they have here, the car number 27, is an old car. Remember Bristol? When Rusty barrel rolled his good short track car 7 times in practice? Well, that car was Holly. That's his good short track car. This car they've nicknamed Madonna. They had to rebuild it, and they ran it at Richmond. It's the car that they had trouble with at Richmond when he and Bodine got together. And, of course, they brought it here to Wilkesboro.
I've always thought it was comical the way these crews and drivers name their cars. Some of the names they come up with sound kind of funny, but then when you talk to the crew members and you find out the story behind it, the names, there's always some story behind the name of these cars, and it's always some, usually not very printable, but always very interesting.
There's Rusty Wallace. Of course, we mentioned the fact that he and Dale Earnhardt are best of friends both on and off the racetrack. And we want no secret that Dale Earnhardt's nickname was Ironhead. A number of people have given him that nickname over the years. And after the accident that Rusty had at Bristol, bouncing back the next day to drive in that race and get a respectable finish, Dale Earnhardt nicknamed his friend Rusty Wallace Rubberhead. In fact, Earnhardt came up on the morning of the race at Bristol and took a black magic marker and had written Rubberhead across the front of Rusty's helmet.
Well, I tell you, after what Rusty went through over there and had to put a big strain on his neck and his head and everything else, he almost looked like he had a rubber head to come through that.
No doubt about it. We're here at Wilkesboro Speedway. Dale Earnhardt is leading the way. And, of course, a lot of interesting things go on in the garage area. Before the race starts, they must start the car. They have a panel of switches. Let's look at another ESPN Quick Fact.
Quick Facts are brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
In NASCAR modified racing and in IndyCar racing, they use what's called rack and pinion steering. Now, this is what we're talking about here. This direct rod coming out of the steering column comes up to a pinion gear and down to a rack here in the front of the car. This rack has small teeth on it. As this pinion gear slides back and forth over these teeth, it runs the rack back and forth and turns the front tires. It's a very sensitive form of steering, but also very delicate. One least little bump could snap this rack. Back at Wilkesboro Speedway, of course, Dale Earnhardt showing the way here. We are 225 laps in the books, and the Goodwrench Chevrolet, Earnhardt now leading just past the halfway point.
Jerry, what race was that you were showing us that car?
That's one of those open wheel modified. That's quick, and I get down there and do the little quick fact. That's why they call it a quick fact. I got to be on pit road and be back up here and dodge the car.
Yeah, well, I guess, you know, that was an interesting quick fact, though. The modifieds run a completely different steering system than they do on these stock cars. That was rack and pinion steering. All the NASCAR Winston Cup cars run a steering box, a worm and sector type steering box. So there is a big difference in the two divisions.
And one big difference we're seeing now is Ricky Rudd's car is really coming to life. And Ricky Rudd now being shown back in third spot. The top 5 as we have them right now. There's the leader, Dale Earnhardt, leading the way. Of course, Rusty Wallace in second spot. Back in third now being shown is the car of Rusty Wallace, or Jeff Bodine. We'll be back. The leaders after 232 laps continue to be Dale Earnhardt. Earnhardt showing the way. Rusty Wallace running in second spot. Ricky Rudd is third, and Rudd has really gotten that car dialed in now. He has run down Rusty Wallace. There is Rudd in third. Jeff Bodine is fourth. Bill Elliott is 5th, 230 of the 400 laps completed. Back in 6th spot. All in the lead lap, Terry Labonte. 7th is Phil Parsons. 8th is Darrell Waltrip. 9th, Alan Kulwicki. And showing back in 10th is Davey Allison. Back in 11th is Mike Alexander. 12th, a good run for Greg Sachs. 13th, Bobby Hillen Jr. 14th is Sterling Marlin. And back in 15th spot is Kenny Schrader.
And one of the drivers, Jerry, that was up in the top 5 for a while and then he spun and caused one of the caution flags is Harry Gant. He has taken his car to the garage area and apparently out of the race. He would be the 3rd driver out of the race here today.
Boy, if Harry didn't have any bad luck, he wouldn't have any luck at all. I tell you, what a tough day for Harry Gant. Let's check in down in the garage area on the Harry Gant story.
Harry, I see oil in the floorboard of the car. Where did it come from?
Oh, the transmission, I think the seal's out of the transmission there, Benny. It's coming up in the car. It's been a stinking for a good while.
We've been smelling it for quite a while. We didn't know exactly what it was. I noticed the smoke is getting worse. Are they going to try to fix it, or are you through for the day?
Well, I don't think there's any point in trying to fix it. You know, we got 150 laps to go, and we're already down one, so I couldn't see no point in standing out there running. They're going to look at it, though, but I'd assume that we didn't run the rest of it.
Okay, thanks, Harry.
Harry Gant, 29th in the Winston Cup point standing, so no reason for him to come back out and try to get points. What a disappointment for the driver who's had a win and 4 second-place finishes at this racetrack. One of his favorites, North Wilkesboro Speedway. Harry calls it a day.
Boy, Harry's had everything in the world happen to him this year, well, really the last several years. That rear seal on the transmission tail housing is where the drive shaft goes into the back of the transmission. It's almost something you don't worry about. It never happens. Nothing ever goes wrong with that seal. And here Harry Gant loses the rear transmission seal, causes the oil to go out of the transmission, onto his headers, and under his tires. That's what was causing his car to get so loose.
One car.
Dale Jarrett being lapped again by Dale Earnhardt, and Rusty Wallace there not too far behind Dale Earnhardt as they begin to come up on some heavy traffic. And there you can see the green number 26 of Ricky Rudd coming into the picture, so he is definitely moving up on the 1st and 2nd place cars. Rudd currently running in 3rd.
Remember back in the spring when Earnhardt was so strong here, he led 240 of the 400 laps here in the Wilkesboro Speedway, only to have a slow leak in the right rear tire to take place with about 10 laps to go, and Earnhardt was slowing just enough for Terry Labonte to come by him and take the win. There's DW, Darrell Waltrip showing back in the field. Waltrip currently being shown in 9th position. You see he's doing battle back there, one of the lap cars. That is the car number 75, the 16th place car, showing a lap down. That is Neil Bonnett. Darrell Waltrip, a brand new race car they debuted up at Martinsville 3 weeks ago. He started 20th at Martinsville and won it in a brand new Banjo Matthews prepared car. Waltrip not having such a good day today. They're having trouble getting the car dialed in. I believe Benny Parsons is down there with crew chief Jeff Hammond. Benny?
Jeff, how goes it?
Benny, what we did help, but still it's not quite enough. We need to work on the car just a little bit more. We're headed in the right direction. The car is turning a little bit better. The lap times are showing it. But right now, everybody else seems like they picked up too. So, you know, we're in a pretty good battle right now that's trying to stay in the lead lap.
It looks like that all the cars did pick up that last pit stop. Is everybody finding something out?
Well, several of the cars have switched over to Hoosier tires compared to Goodyear's, but Dale's car is still on Goodyear's, and so are we, and he's really running well. I just feel like we just need one more adjustment on the car, and we should be able to get back up there and maybe be competitive.
Can the tires do it, or do you have to go someplace else for the adjustment? Can you do it with the tires, or do you have to go someplace else?
I believe we can do it with the tire stagger and work on the chassis just a little bit more. We're not talking about just a little bit, but on a racetrack as short as Wilkesboro here, they eat you up so quick. You know what I'm talking about there. So we just really need to be right. We give up a 10th or 2 tenths a lap. Next thing you know, they're all over you.
Thank you.
There's Darrell Waltrip, 42 career short track wins. Waltrip, a tremendous effort here. Waltrip, one of the winningest drivers, the winningest money winner here at the Wilkesboro Speedway, $386,000 in career winnings. He has 9 victories, 7 of those wins coming with the Junior Johnson stable here for the many years he drove for Junior. Back up front, there's Dale Earnhardt moving around the car of Brett Bodine, the car number 15. Bodine had an outstanding effort a week ago at Charlotte, nearly came close to that first win, as the car just couldn't quite keep the mustard up those last few laps. And Bodine had an impressive performance there in the Bud Moore car.
Well, he came home in 3rd place, which was his best Winston Cup career finish. You know, spotters are always very important, and fans might not know what spotters are if we talk about those, but Dick Berggren has that story. Dick?
Well, Ned, here at North Wilkesboro, the spotters are all clustered together on the roof of a brand new building in the center of the infield. Here they stand high above the racetrack, and they watch not only their car, but they watch everybody else's car too. If they see somebody picking up speed, going a little bit faster, they're going to let their driver know, hey, try a little bit different line. Somebody's picking up speed here. They will also keep an eye for their driver behind them, let them know who's closing the door. And most importantly, when there's trouble on the racetrack, they'll let their driver know where it is and how to stay out of it.
Well, you're right about that, Dick. The spotters have become such an important part of racing. You know, before we just had pit boards, a chalkboard we'd hold up to the driver and give them messages. Then we went to the radios where we could actually talk to the drivers. Now we've gone so far as every member of the crew has a radio, plus we've got a spotter up high who also, he watches up ahead of the leader or watches up ahead of his own car to see if there's any problem. You know, the driver in the car can see something directly in front of him, but the spotter is supposed to look ahead to the next turn and warn the driver of any problems that he won't see. The spotters have done also a lot in the scoring and telling them where the lap cars are. It's really become a very important part of racing.
Back up front, Dale Earnhardt trying to work over the 11th place car, the last car in the lead lap. That's Mike Alexander. It's Earnhardt working on Alexander. Now, when Earnhardt starts a race, he has a whole panel of switches to choose from. What are they for? We'll find out with this quick fact.
Quick Facts are brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
We've all seen drivers reach up at the beginning of a race and flip a panel of switches on the dashboard. Well, what are they actually flipping? Let me show you. Now, this Goodrich Chevrolet here of Dale Earnhardt has a panel of 5 separate switches here on the dashboard, fairly representative of all the Winston Cup teams. This red one here is the engine ignition. You flip that one up, flip the one to its left, which is a spring-loaded switch for the starter to crank the car. The blue one is power to the electronic tachometer. The white one, rear-end cooler fan. And the final red one here is the alternator. Now, during qualifying, the drivers will leave the cooler fan and the alternator off, but they'll have them on for the race. On those final few laps, they may reach over and flip both those cooler fan and alternator switches off. It may add 3 or 4 horsepower and may just be enough to make the difference in that final lap run to the checkered flag. Well, a fellow who would like to have some horsepower right now is Ricky Rudd, as he is in a tight battle for that second spot. And heavy traffic now out of turn 2 as they split the Bouchard car and make a Bouchard sandwich now as Mike Alexander is done on the inside. Alexander in the car number 12. Rudd is in the 26. And, of course, Rusty Wallace in the car number 27. Wallace's car began to slip and slide a little bit, Ned. We saw him slipping and sliding in the corners, and now he slides up again and gives the opening for Ricky Rudd.
Yeah, his car is moving up a little bit in the turn. That's all Ricky Rudd needed to move on the inside as we see Jeff Bodine lap on the outside of Dale Jarrett. But here's that battle for second position. Ricky Rudd down on the inside. Can he get the traction off the turn to make the pass?
Boy, it's so hard to figure this out. You know, the Goodyear tires on Ricky Rudd's car, we've seen them spurt off on the restarts and take off. Then it looked like the Hoosier tires would come back a little bit. But now as the race goes on and on a little longer in the long run, now it looks like the Goodyears come back. So maybe there's a window right in, you know, the 20 to